On each year, when November rolls around, I tend to light up myself a cigar and remember those who never got back home from the war. In my case, there were 3 men whose sacrifices I will honor to the end of my life. I can still remember the time we all were just boys and thrilled to get our hands dirty with war. After some difficulties, I began to enlist myself to the Army in 1941, and after the training I got a modest position as instructor. I was supposed to teach newcomers how to navigate and sail. However, this post didn't satisfy my urge of service to the United States, so in 1942 I was able to attend officers' training school. I got my chance. On 28th of March, I was being sent to the war zone. However, our trip was disturbed by an air raid from the Japanese. The air raid delayed us so much that on 12th of April, we finally arrived to our base at Guadalcanal. This was the first time when I saw a battle at close hand, and I thanked Almighty that He allowed me to escape with my life. As I reported for duty to Commander Calvert, I learned that most of the posts of this base were taken, and there was nothing much to do. However, I did enjoy my time at the base, although my days were idle, and night time was for patrolling the shores of New Georgia. But after 3 weeks, I was granted my very own Boat 109. I was supposed to relieve Captain Brian Larson, so I inherited his boat. She had received some scars from patrolling the shores, but she was still fully functional. My crew consisted of 10 men. They were Lenny Jatham, Andrew Jackson Kirksey, John Edward Maguire, Charles Harris, Norris Cole, Edgar E. Mayo, Lee Andrade, Edmund Druitt, William Johnston, and Patrick Henry Mayo. Moonless nights were the worst times to patrol, since during those nights all the big bogies were sailing. I mean the infamous Tokyo Express, which was the most important supply line of the enemy. Our task was simple. We were supposed to launch as many torpedoes as we could towards that ship and then vanish into the night. During the time of my service, we faced 2 close calls from the enemy. 20th of June, Tokyo Express was protected by an air raid at the island of Gizo. First, we raided the enemy with fire, and it worked. Then at 3 in the morning, we received another raid, and on this time, a bomb was dropped upon us. 2 men were injured. They were Cole and Andrade. We had to hurry back to the base and take the one into Tulagi. After this, the 2 men were relieved from their service, and I got 3 more men to my crew. They were Giraldi, Cinza, Harold, Lonnie, and Raymond Albert. 25th of June, we suffered another air raid, and 1 crew member died. Men were starting to feel scared to go to the patrol missions, and I pondered how we could fight better against the enemy fire. Then I thought to a 37 millimeter and a tank guns to my boat. It seemed to be a good idea, since other senior skippers had done the same. However, such of a gun was clumsy to use in the battle, but it would be effective when used properly. On the 1st of August, Commander Warfield got a secret message that our base was targeted by the enemy planes. 18 bombers came. We lost 2 of our forward boats. 2 men died and 4 were injured. I got 2 more men to my crew, and they were George, Bruce, and Ray Starkey. This deed from the enemy was going to be left unpunished. 15 boats left from Rendezvous, including mine. However, we were delayed, so we came to the battle a bit too late. Around 2:30 in the morning, a big ship called Imagine was approaching us. I thought this would be my chance to pay back our losses, and I steered my boat towards that ship. In spite of our efforts, the boat did not respond to steering nor the guns fired. Enemy ship towered upon us like a skyscraper, and then she ran over our boat. Our small torpedo boat was broken into, and due to the impact, the full tank exploded. Sea water was burning all over, while the front part of our boat sank. Across all that commotion, I called my men. Everybody except Kirksey and Marty replied. After the situation had calmed down a bit, we gathered around the other part of the wreck, which was still floating. As a skipper, the men trusted me to help them out from this situation. We didn't have much of weapons, so it would be a fruitless endeavor to sneak behind the enemy airfield, which was close by. Surrendering was not an option, and the only thing to be done was trying to get ourselves rescued. Patrick Mayer was badly burned due to the flames of the explosion, so I took a strap from his life jacket between my teeth and started to pull him behind of myself. Every once in a while when I stopped to rest, I asked if he was all right, and he always replied to me, "Okay, Mr. Kennedy, how about you?" We swam 3 miles to reach that smallest land, near to the enemy air base. When we reached the shore, we hid ourselves under the plants, while the enemy planes flew right above us. After I had gathered some strength, we decided that I would swim to a bigger land which didn't seem to host any enemies, and seek help. We waited till the night, and I left to cross the Ferguson Passage. The trip to my new destination was full of dangers. Besides sharks, I had to watch out the sea currents. However, I was snatched by the current and drifted further away from the point where I had planned to go. Nevertheless, I refused to give up, and I managed to wash up to the shore. After I was sure the place where I had landed was free from enemies, I returned to my crew, and we all moved there. Yet again I pulled Mahon with my teeth. When my crew had settled down and managed to eat some of coconuts, I and George Ross decided to swim yet another shore. If we could spy any torpedo boat patrolling nearby at this point, we all were quite a sorry sight. We all were hungry and thirsty, and I can still remember one of the men saying that if we will survive from this, they will never again complain about the army food. On the 5th of August, we finally saw some light at the end of the tunnel. As we landed to another shore, we spotted a wooden box and a canoe. When we opened the box, we realized it was an enemy supply box, which was full of food rations and water. As both I and Rose packed that small canoe with food, we saw 2 native Islanders approaching us. However, they ran since they mistook us for the Japanese. On the next day, we met them again, and I managed to explain that we meant no harm to them, and we were Americans who needed help. Then I carved a help message to one of the coconuts and handed it over, hoping that help would arrive. On the next night, I and Rose went to scout the shores in hopes of seeing a torpedo boat, which was a huge mistake since during August the Solomon Islands are being hit by heavy rains and storms. We barely managed to escape from the wrath of the sea, and I apologized from Rose for endangering his life, which he replied, "This would be a great time to say I told you so, but I won." Eventually, we were rescued by the Australians, and with their radio, we managed to connect our own base, and we agreed that I would shoot for shots to the air, informing them that it was indeed us. But sadly, after the 3rd shot, I ran out of bullets, and I had to use the Japanese gun for the final shot. When we all were back at the base safe and sound, I learned that those who saw a collision with the ship thought that we all had perished. They had even planned to hold a memorial service to honor our passing. Still, I couldn't shake that awful feeling of guilt. When we were rescued with a heavy soul, I cried my fallen comrades, and the commander Cluster offered to relieve me from my post. However, I declined and served another 9 months until I had reached my breaking point both physically and mentally. The 3rd manhold I want to honor is my older brother Joel. It should be he sitting in this chair instead of me, but fate had other plans for the both of us. later date when I was asked to explain how I had come to be a hero, I replied, it was involuntary. They sank my boat